All right, welcome to episode 24 of Building the Athlete. Today's guest, Wyatt Reeder, who will be playing baseball for the University of Nebraska this next fall. Wyatt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I'm a big fan of the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to get you on here. I got to tell you, you're the first high school athlete that I've had on here, so there's a lot of pressure.
I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
With that said, if you have watched the show before, you've seen how I close shows out. I'm going to spin it on you, and we're going to do a speed round to start out. You know, as an athlete, think about this as your dynamic warm up. We're going to get you ready to roll here. I'm gonna shoot questions at you. I want short answers. I don't want you to put a whole lot of thought behind it, and
All right.
we'll see how we come out here.
All right, let's do it.
What's harder, hitting a 95-mile-an-hour fastball or scoring on a breakaway?
95-mile-per-hour fastball.
What's the best chirp you've ever heard on the ice?
Best chirp. Probably. I guess I'm not sure. There's some good ones I've heard over the years. Best one maybe be like this guy goes, "Hey ref, have you checked your phone? Because you're missing a lot of calls." I don't know, something like. Or no. Best one I ever heard was this guy gets on and he goes, "Hey, can I get a penalty?" He goes to the ref, "Can I get a penalty for thinking?" And the ref goes, "No, you can't get a penalty for thinking." And the guy goes, "Good, because I think you're effing horrible tonight."
Okay. One athlete you'd pay to watch in person every time.
Michael Jordan.
Baseball dugout or hockey locker room, which is funnier?
I gotta say hockey locker room.
Which sport made you mentally tougher?
I'm gonna say baseball.
What's your walk-up song?
This year it's Grinding All My Life, but I like to go with Many Men by 50 Cent too.
Okay. Favorite pregame snack?
Probably just a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Pregame meal, gotta go with chicken Alfredo though.
All right. Now, is that a pregame meal or is that a superstition?
It's a pregame meal. I don't eat it every time, but
Okay.
definitely a good pregame meal.
Okay. What's more nerve-wracking, the bottom of the ninth or a shootout?
I've never really been in a shootout, so bottom of the ninth.
Okay. Who was your toughest opponent ever?
Probably, I was hurt at the time when we played him, but Coulter McAnally just got 200 strikeouts at Utah, which I think is fifth all time there, and he threw a no-hitter against us.
Okay. If you could steal one pro athlete's skill, whose would it be?
Probably, let's go like Usain Bolt speed. Fly around the bases.
What's the weirdest superstition you've had?
I'm not really a big superstitious guy, just more of a routine guy, just following routines.
Which of your teammates would survive longest in the wilderness?
Let's see. I'd probably say Jace Morgan, a guy I played with. He's just a big outdoors guy. If I had to survive in the wilderness, I'd be taking him.
Okay. Who's the hardest coach you've ever played for?
Hardest coach, probably say my dad, just we had to learn how to deal with that relationship of being father and son, but also he's my coach. But I think in the end, we did a good job of all that.
Awesome. What's the funniest teammate story you can tell legally?
I don't know. We don't do too many crazy things, I guess. Just a lot of good times on the bus and stuff. I don't really got any crazy stories, I guess.
What's the best crowd atmosphere you've ever played in?
Probably this year's state tournament was in Sioux Falls, and it was the first time Yankton made the state championship, so they packed it this year. Or the state championship when I was a sophomore was in Brookings, and Brookings packed that barn, so both those games.
Okay. One moment you wish you could replay forever?
Probably just playing in those state championship games. They're so special, just probably those goals that I scored. You remember those forever. And if I could go back, I'd love to.
Yeah. What's one thing people completely misunderstand about elite level athletes?
I just think they see like the result that's on the field or on the ice, and they don't really realize how much goes in behind it. There's the practices and the time you spend alone working on your game, and then also, going to the weight room. So there's just a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that they don't see. And I think sometimes the misconception that it's just easy and that people were blessed with that, but it's really those athletes worked for everything they got.
Yeah. Which sport has tougher conditioning?
Definitely hockey for me.
Okay. What's your favorite sports movie of all time?
Probably The Sandlot, Mighty Ducks. Those are two good ones. Miracle on Ice.
Okay. What's cooler, a home run trot or a celly after a goal?
Home run trot for sure.
Okay. Who talks more trash, hockey guys or baseball guys?
Hockey guys, 100%.
Okay. Nice job. You survived that. Like I said, you're the first high school athlete that I've had on the show, so I think that's a great thing because it's going to bring a different perspective. But another unique, did you know was you're the first athlete that I've ever had come through my program whose dad trained with me. So I think if nothing else, that tells you how old I'm getting. So has there ever been any dinner talk with dad about, "Hey, well, when I trained, it was way harder," or
Oh yeah, for sure. He lets us know we got it a lot easier nowadays because we don't have to do those early morning sand workouts at the volleyball pits. So
yeah. So is he saying I'm getting softer? Is that what I'm hearing? Uh,
I don't know about that. He just likes to say that he had to go home uphill both ways.
right, right.
It was
So
harder for him.
he's being a dad.
Yes, sir.
So for the people listening that don't know you, going through that opening part, they're probably a little confused. Is this guy a hockey player? Is this guy a baseball player? And we're going to get to baseball, and we're going to spend a lot of time on baseball. But we gotta talk about hockey because I think pretty open conversation. You're considered the best hockey player in the history of South Dakota. I think most goals scored, won a national title, um, and you're going a different direction. You're going to go play Division I baseball at the University of Nebraska. So when did you kind of know you were going to go baseball and go away from hockey? Or I mean, kind of talk me through that decision making process.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up in Rapid City, we got the hard hats and post 22, and that's all I ever wanted to be growing up, play and get your hard hat. Baseball is just so special in Rapid City, and I feel like it's pretty much our number one sport here. Growing up, when it's hockey season, it's hockey season. When it's baseball season, it's baseball season. I loved them both the same, but I think it really came down just the opportunities I had. And also, hockey's got a little bit different route where you got to go play junior hockey when you're, 19, 20 years old, where, baseball's happening for me now. So, in the end, it just came down to the opportunities I had and baseball. I love both sports, but I think baseball's the right path for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, ending up at a Division I school is the dream of a lot of athletes. You were recently, you know, senior in high school, getting ready to start out, your last season of American Legion baseball with your team that you wanted to grow up. As a young kid growing up, this is all you ever wanted to do, play. And you got put into a position where, I mean, almost must have been heartbreaking, at the same time exciting when the University of Nebraska calls and says, "Hey, we want you to join our the Jayhawk League this summer and get some exposure to high level baseball." Um, Really, really cool that you get that opportunity. Really, really heartbreaking that you're losing your last year of American Legion baseball. That's a tough spot for a kid to be in. So kind of, how did that make you feel? How did you kind of walk your way through that and know that obviously you're making the right decision to go do what you're doing, but just tell me, what you were feeling through all that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit rough at the start, because I grew up playing with all my teammates, and like I said, I grew up wanting to be a hard hat. So, Rapid City is really special to me, and I would love to be here. But at the end of the day, it was probably the best decision for my baseball career. I'll get to go down and face college pitching, play against better competition, and just really get ready for when I go to UNL in the fall, because that's the main thing. They didn't want me to come in, just get my doors blowing off right away. And then you're also figuring out how to do school at the same time. So I think it's the best decision for the long run. And then I actually worked it out with the Nebraska and the summer ball team to come back for the state tournament. So I'm super excited for that.
Okay. Well, and I'm sure Post 22 is very excited that you're gonna be able to come back. You're very important to the team and have been very important to the program. So to come back and join your boys for the end of the season will be, I'm sure, very important and emotional for you, to be able to spend that time with them, and it kind of works out for everybody. So I'm glad you got that opportunity. Um, So let's talk a little bit about, Wyatt Reeder as a kid growing up. I mean, I've known your family for a long time, obviously, and um, you know, was it always you're I mean, you fit that category of most of my high level athletes, and that separation. You kind of talked a little bit about the commitment. Always been a hardworking guy. Like, has it always been like that, or did that click at some point, or were you just kind of locked in from day one?
So, I grew up watching my dad play hockey, and I was always kind of in that locker room atmosphere and just getting to watch how he approached his work, And I think that, has gotten me to where I am today. And I think I always kind of had that work ethic. I was never the biggest, fastest, or strongest guy, Even when I joined you in eighth grade, the guys would make fun of me because the bar used to hurt my back, So I came a long way, and I credit everything I have today to the hard work I put in. Because without it, I don't think I was maybe the most gifted athlete growing up, but I've earned quite a bit of it, and today I feel like I can compete with pretty much everybody now, But that's only because of the work I've put in and having so many amazing people like yourself and Hunter and like my doctors, trainers, my coaches, teammates, everybody that has invested in me um, has made me the player I am today.
Yeah, and it's the old adage that it takes a village is, I mean, it's never more true than with a high level athlete. You have to have a good supporting cast around you, and I think you recognize that from an early age. So, you said you grew up watching your dad play. Your dad was an undersized player, but I mean, he was, one of the scrappiest athletes that I ever have been around. Do you think that's kind of where some of that work ethic came from? Is like, watching him kind of have to, almost just be on all the time to kind of make up for some deficiencies on the ice?
Yeah, 100% it is. He was the smaller guy out there, so he had to work twice as hard for everything. And, maybe just subconsciously watching him over the years, I picked up on that. And yeah, he's a great role model and definitely, the guy who gave me my drive and passion for the games I play. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's not forget about mom. Mom also was a
Yep.
college athlete. From what I know, she is a competitive woman. Tell me, what influence did she have on you growing up as an athlete?
My mom's the best, she's my biggest fan and supporter. She'll tell you that I got all my athletic ability from her. But she's great. She's everything. She, raised us 5 kids to be, sports is second, the people you are is first, And, yeah, she's just been amazing, been there every step of the way, never misses a game, and, yeah, just truly wants the best for me and everybody around her and makes everybody, um, that she comes across a better person, so I'm very blessed
Yeah.
to have such amazing parents.
Does mom ever get on you if she's seeing something she doesn't like?
I don't think I give her too much to worry about, but, yeah, she can get on me if I'm messing around a little bit or if she sees something, she doesn't like on the field, she lets us know.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it was several years ago. I was at Post 22 with my son. We were hitting, and you and your dad, and I'm assuming I think it was Jackson, came in, and I was just kind of watching out of the corner of my eye, as I'm throwing to my son. But I mean, it was like a business. Like, you guys were, I mean, you came in, got right to it, ground balls, got in the cage. I mean, there's just no messing around, just focused work. And I was just kind of like, wow, like that family's kind of got it dialed in. And I mean, obviously you're a result of that, because I think parenting, especially these days, it has so much to do with this. And I'm in the middle of Little League baseball right now. And I've been down this road a few times, so I kind of just sit back and watch. But parents, they take this stuff really, really serious. And I think you're very fortunate to be in the situation you are, where you have parents that were athletes at a high level. Understand it, understand that support is such an important thing. Um, so when we talk about that family dynamic that you have, how does that play into you being the oldest child of a super athletic family, super driven family. You're kind of the, you're kind of the head guy when it comes to the kids. So how do you accept that role?
Well, yeah, like you said, I have such amazing parents, so they've raised us the right way. Just as the oldest, I'm always trying to set a example for my siblings. They get to learn from, even Jackson gets to learn from the recruiting process I went through and all that. So it's just, about showing them the work that it takes and just whatever path they choose, you got to work hard so you can excel in that area. And I always try to set that example and you know, just lead them to, having the right habits and work ethic and all those kind of things. But it's easy for me because my parents have done it for years, so I learn from them and hopefully my siblings learn a little something from me.
Yeah. Do you think Jackson's coming for some of those records that you've set?
For sure. I hope he gets to some of them. That
Yeah.
batting average, I don't know. I think it's in danger. That little guy, he's left-handed hitter just like me. He's got that bunt in his bag, so who knows? I think he might steal it from me by the time he's done.
Yeah. I gotta tell another story that kind of just, really represents what we're talking about. But, the Benson sports training wiffle ball game where, we bring in all the past Benson sports training athletes and current college people. And I invited you guys in because again, the dad and you guys, it's kind of a cool dynamic. And I remember one of the years that we played and you guys were leaving and I kind of said, "Hey, Jackson, good job, buddy." And he was legitimately pissed off because two of his hits didn't count as home runs because they hit one of the batting cage wires. And but, but it was just like, oh, okay,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all they're all that competitive. And I mean, he had to been, what, maybe 12, 13 years old at the time. He was just little and he was dialed in. That meant something to him. Like he was
Yeah.
he was there to play. And I just we all got a kick out of that. About okay, here comes the next reader, the next competitive reader, and
Yep, that's the way he is, and, that just shows the how competitive my family is, but, yep, little Jackson, he takes his wiffle ball pretty seriously.
that's right, that's right. So does that carry over to like family game night? Does that get pretty heated?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Whenever we're playing a game, there's some tears shed at times. It gets pretty serious around the Reader house, but it's
Okay.
good.
So one thing you and I have talked about. You made the choice, and I think was most of your high school career that academically you made the choice to move to an online academy, instead of attending public school. I think maybe you even went a year of private school. I can't remember, but um, we have a lot of athletes that are starting to look at that route of doing an online academy. Allows them more time to train. It's they can do their schoolwork on the road while they're competing. I'd like to talk a little bit about just your experience with that. And there'll be people out there that are so opposed to this view because they think everybody should be in school. But when I talk about this, I'm talking about the higher level athletes that know they're moving on to the college level, and this is actually a tool that they have to make their days more efficient. So tell me about your experience with that.
Yeah, so, I went to school all the way up till 4th grade. I think that was my first year of homeschool, and then ever since I've been doing, homeschool. I started with a, like, more textbook kinda curriculum, and now these last 2 years, I moved completely to a program called the Celis Academy, and it's all online, which I know your daughter does now, and, yeah, I've loved it. It's been a huge part of, making me a better athlete because, like you said, you get to have a really flexible schedule, and I still work out in the mornings, but a lot of guys, can opt to work out at 12 and then, get some swings in the cage during the day. And really the thing that people worry about and ask me about most is just like the social aspect of it. But that never really played a factor for me because my friends are all the guys I play sports with anyway, they're my teammates,
Right.
and even if I went to school, I'm pretty sure those would all still be my friends, I don't know how many more friends I would have, so, I don't think that was ever an issue with me, and, yeah, I've loved my time homeschooling, and I would encourage everybody to at least look into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just with the flexibility, I know there's times where I've essentially given you homework, at the gym where it's like, hey, you need to be working on this, this, and this while you're home. Is
Yeah.
that has that been obviously a lot easier to kind of put into your day, knowing that you're controlling your schedule?
Yeah, 100%. Because you can turn on some of your lessons while you do some stretches or something, work at it at the same time. And yeah, no, I think it's a great tool for athletes to use, because there's so much wasted time in school and, the amount of work you can get during the day just because it depends. And also for most athletes, we get home on the weekends. I know for hockey, like sometimes we wouldn't be home till like 1 in the morning. So, do you really wanna wake up like some of my teammates at 8 and then have to go to school and kinda, go through a day kinda sluggish or something, where you could, start later on Monday or take that day off and start on Tuesday and actually attack your
Yeah.
schoolwork with, some intensity and an approach, to actually learn and get better.
Yeah. And, one thing I've noticed with my daughter is the fact that she's in control of her schedule. She seems to be way more attentive than she ever was when she was in public school. And that's not a knock on public school. It's just she's a person that needs to be in control of what she's doing. And just like you
Mhm.
said, we got home, well, yesterday morning at about 1 o'clock from a volleyball tournament. And, she was able to sleep in yesterday. She has a job during the day. So she does schoolwork, a job, she trains, she has practice. But she's kind of in control of that. And I think that's, has really helped her. And I just think that's something you're going to see more and more of, especially with kids that are more on the club sports side, so hockey, basketball, volleyball, where they're missing a lot of school because of it. And so I wanted to get your opinion on that. One thing we got to talk about is, you had a serious injury a couple years ago, that took you out of your sophomore year. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And you had another one when you were younger, right? Didn't you have an avulsion
Yep, the
fracture?
year before, so as a freshman, I had a hip avulsion, so my hip flexor tore off, and then as a sophomore, I had a tibial plateau fracture, torn calf, hamstring, and partially torn meniscus, so, yeah, I've had a couple, injuries. Before that, I really had nothing, so,
Okay.
yeah, those ones hit me pretty hard.
So let's talk about the tib fracture. That happened preseason, right? Matter of fact, I
It
think it
was
was in the
actually in the season, so we were 4 games into the season, we go down to Cheyenne, and I'm running out for a fly ball down the right field line, and I'm kinda, like, looking back behind my shoulder, and as I'm calling for the ball and it's, like, coming down, I just get hit out of nowhere, and it was a right fielder. You take crossway, big 220, linebacker, just right into my left knee, and what happened was it extended my knee, so all that top part drove into my tibia and drove it down. And yeah, I ended up playing another 2 innings on it. It was, really painful. Like just it felt like there was basically a fire on my left knee. And it ended up, Coach Torvey ended up taking me out of the game just because I could hardly move anymore. And then, we came back to Rapid. They thought, maybe it was just kind of just it wasn't so serious, and we had some x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, and every single one of those scans, just kept getting worse, and then finally it got to a point where they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna be done for this season. We're gonna have a surgery." Ended up having a 5-hour surgery and 5 screws and a plate in my knee, which are still in there, but yeah, then I was supposed to be out 11 months after that, and that would have put me, pretty much right around to the next baseball season, but, I had a lot of great physical therapists and obviously you and Hunter at Benson's, to help me, and I ended up making it back in 5 and didn't even miss a practice for my hockey season, and, ended up putting a pretty good hockey season together, and then got back into baseball the next year and had a really good season and ended up committing to Nebraska, so, um, I learned a lot through those experiences. It was really hard mentally, um, but I think if I could do it again, I don't think I would change anything, just because it taught me so much and, uh, I'm a better person and athlete today because of it. At least I think I came back stronger. So
Sure. And okay, I got a couple questions for you.
yeah,
Number
for sure.
one,
I just given kind of a overview of it.
yeah, Did Tate not call you off?
He says he did, but I got a couple guys that didn't hear it, so I definitely didn't hear anything, but, with nothing against him, Tate's a great guy. Um,
So you got a college linebacker. You know he's not going to pull off the ball, and then you got you, who's extremely hard nosed. Hockey player. So that's probably just the wrong place at the wrong time for both of you guys, and
yeah,
it was an unfortunate thing. But like, tell me initially, like when you got the diagnosis of there goes my season. And you're what, probably 16 years old at the time.
yep.
Emotionally, how did you do that? Had to be really, really difficult. How did you kind of get through those first couple weeks of accepting, I'm losing my season. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, it was super hard, and going back to, like, your superstitious thing, I'm not a superstitious guy, but the year before, I had, torn my hip flexor, right? So I missed the majority of the midseason, which was, like, 30 games, and, this next I was finally, getting to play baseball and everything, but I just really was trying to stay healthy. And we went to Panda Express right before the game, and I opened up a fortune cookie, and the fortune cookie said, "You're about to go on a long and unexpected journey." And I just felt weird, like, before the game, like a long, hard, unexpected journey. I just felt weird about it. And I was like, "Oh, hopefully that injury was playing over in my head from the year before, and I was like, "Man, I hope everything goes well today." And, and that I think it was like the second inning, I run out there and get hit like that. And from there, it was pretty emotional. Right away, I didn't know in the dugout and stuff, but I kind of had a feeling because I sat down and tried to get up an inning later, and I couldn't even stand on it. And it was just, super painful. And then when I finally, had to sit down with the doctors and they told me I was going to have season ending surgery, that was pretty emotional because that's such a big recruiting year too. So, a lot of people, told me that I'd probably have to start looking at smaller schools and
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't get to be where I wanted to be, so that's just hard. And then also just I missed a whole season of playing with my buddies, and that's what I do during the summer, play baseball. I was kind of stuck in my room for 2 months, just, watching TV and having to do like little exercises, whatever I could do. And obviously, like the biggest thing for me was getting back into the gym, because it was just that was the only thing that could help me mentally, and stay because I'm an athlete, so that's really hard when you get that taken away from you. And to still have the gym around, that was pretty much what I threw everything into, and I think I got a lot bigger, faster, and stronger that season because I come back the next year and Coach Ewing was like, I've never seen anybody get bigger, faster, and stronger, like, you know, and take the leaps that you did in all those categories, and you didn't sacrifice anything. And yeah, so I credit everything to you guys at Benson Sports Training and um, my doctors and coaches, teammates, friends, family. Everybody was really supporting me through that time, and they made a really dark area of my life. It was because of everybody around me and the support I had. It became a lot easier than it could have been.
Yeah. Well, you'd said a couple seconds ago, you said I'm an athlete, but you're also a human being that feels things. And so, you said I kind of laying around in my bedroom for 2 months. Like, how did you mentally and emotionally, as athletes, we're always like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna get better at it. But part of being a high level athlete is being able, also be very strong mentally and very strong emotionally. And I think they're two different things. Um, you said, it was a dark time. Like, were there times where you were like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna make it back from this. Like, what was that kind of internal dialogue, when you were dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was super hard, because you sit in the bed and you can't even walk, you can't stand on it. It feels like this thing is gonna last forever, you're just pretty much praying for the day that you can walk again and get back to just normal everyday activities, like I couldn't even get in the shower by myself and stuff like that, and you just forget, how blessed you are. But yeah, that goes back to my mom. She was always in the bed with me watching I think we binge watched the whole Prison Break series through those 2 months. And yeah, basically all I had during that time was, my family was around coming in and out of the room, checking up on me, and they were great through that period. And then, I got into the gym as fast as I could and basically would just have to sit on a bench press and hammer out reps and do whatever Hunter told me I could do, but there really wasn't much I could do for my lower half for that first 2 months, and then after that, we started to get back into squats and all that, and yeah, all my lifts kinda blew up after that, and, I think I was bigger, faster, and stronger through that than, so that was great to see those jumps because for such a long time, I had thought, because you see your legs shrinking every day. It's
Right.
wild. I didn't realize how much it does, but you just lose all that muscle and you're like, all this work that I put in is gone, but it also comes back that quick, once you start going again. So, um, yeah, it's harder mentally than anything, but like I said, all the people around me really helped get me through that time.
Yeah. Did you, I mean, was there ever a point where you're like, to the point where you wanted to quit, or was it always, I got this. I'm gonna get back in the gym. I'm gonna hit this hard. Did you ever have, and I mean, if you did, rightfully so, but did you ever have kind of that victim mentality where, why did this happen to me? I'm not gonna make it back.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some hard days, and sometimes, maybe I felt sorry for myself because it was my year to get recruited and I didn't know, what would happen in the future. But I never wanted to quit and I never really felt like, why did this happen to me? Because, I saw something and it's like, why not happen to me? God gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. So um, you know, I just took it as a challenge and tried to do whatever I could to get back and help improve myself so that when I did finally get to play again, I'd be a better player, because that was really the first time when I hadn't been playing a sport. So it was I used it as like an off season period and really hit the gym hard. And I think through all the years of lifting, that's when I actually got the strongest and, made the biggest jumps in the weight room. So
So your rehab kind of became your sport.
yeah,
Like,
pretty much. I just threw everything at it. It became just like, yeah, what hockey or baseball did for me, that's where take everything. That's my 2 hours of the day and, to stop thinking about everything that's going outside and just, really just have fun with my buddies and everything. And, um, yeah, whatever's going on doesn't matter when you're playing that sport for a while. So that just became the gym and that gym was it meant everything to me during that period, and it still
yeah.
does, but that's really when I fell in love with it.
Yeah. Do you think, that time away, having to sit and watch your buddies play when you were supposed to be out there, did that give you a new perspective when you came back?
Oh yeah, 100%, because then I come back for the hockey season and, you had to watch those baseball guys play every day, and it's like the sport you love, and you just like every single time you see, there's a big moment in the game or something, you're just, I can't help the team, how I want to, so I tried everything I could, throwing BP before games, being a good teammate in the dugout and everything, but it's just not quite the same, you just want to contribute. But when I came back for that hockey season, I just took the approach of playing like every single game was my last game, like I would never get to play again. And I still try to play like that, play with the enthusiasm like it's your first game, but, remember that it could be your last because you never know, it was one game and that wiped me out for a whole season. So you never know when your last game's going to be. Someday it's going to come. So you just want to always, not take anything for granted and play as hard as you can because you're pretty blessed to be able to be an athlete and play these games. So
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I think that's going to carry on far after sports is over with you. I think people that have that, that gratitude, just life in general, to be, to know that they're blessed. And, as opposed to, I think in our society, we have so many people with victim mentalities that, why did this happen to me? And why is life so hard? And, why did that person get the promotion? Or why is that person playing in front of me? Instead of, I mean, like you said, you were injured. You could only do certain things in the weight room. You could only throw batting practice. So you did everything you could with a positive attitude, and I think that separates successful people from people that struggle their entire life.
yeah,
And
well, and
so
it's way easier to be a good person, and, be happy for everybody else's success, and it really showed too, like, that was my chance to prove to my teammates, what kind of teammate and person I am too, because it's easy to be a good person and teammate when everything's going right for you, but you
yeah,
really find out who you are when things aren't going that way, you know? You find out, if you're willing to help the team or if you're really, got that mentality to do anything you can to help the team win, you know? So I think that was my chance to prove that to the team, and, I did everything I could through that time to, do what I could to help them succeed.
Yeah, and I think doing that as a 16-year-old is a it's a pretty nice testament to who you are as a person and the family that raised you, because it's very insightful for you to be that way at that young of an age. And so you make it back last year. So now we're in your junior year. You have a huge year, as far as, well, hockey. You win a national title, and then come back in baseball, and you set some single season records with probably the most storied sports program in South Dakota. That has produced 80, 90, 100 Division I baseball players. So you're up there with some pretty big names. Um, you know, how did that feel to get back on the field last season and do what you did?
It felt amazing, finally I remember my first game back, just coming and just kinda taking it all in, because I hadn't got to play in so long and, just looking at up into the crowd and seeing all the people there that had supported me through those times and, finally getting to be able to play, and obviously, like you said, I put together a pretty good season too, which was, made it so much more sweet, and then, uh, getting to commit to Nebraska at the end was, the kind of the cherry on top, and a dream come true for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the recruiting process and how all that plays out, because the NCAA has done a lot of things in the last 5 years, and is doing another thing currently with adding a fifth year of eligibility.
Yeah.
None of these things that have been done over the last 5 years are in the best interest of the high school athlete looking to get to college. Pretty much, everything that's been done is to benefit the current college athlete. And what it has done in turn is made it extremely, extremely difficult for high school kids to come out, and Division I is becoming, almost, unless you're a blue chip, one of the best in the United States, it's going to be really, really hard to get to the Division I level out of high school. Um, and so here's Wyatt Reeder, that has been hurt for 2 years in a row, puts together one great season, and winds up signing a Division I college. How did that play out? Because I mean, taking a step back and looking at that scenario, it seems kind of unlikely. So
Yeah,
tell me
and
how'd you work all that out?
yeah, and like you were saying, just how the recruiting is all these days, they're looking at more junior college guys and stuff, and I had even had a couple people tell me, um, that I was probably not a Division I guy because I'd missed my recruiting window because I was hurt, so, to start looking at, like, Division IIs and junior colleges and stuff like that, and, that's kind of when you could feel sorry for yourself, but instead, you gotta put your head down and work hard, and, I ended up getting I'm very blessed, to be going to Nebraska, but what kinda happened was, I played that season out. I didn't get really too many looks. SDSU had been watching me since I was a freshman, so that was kind of a Division I team. NDSU came to a couple games, and right at the end, Gonzaga started looking at me a little bit, but really those were like my 3 Division Is, and, I had a great season, obviously broke the batting average record, which Casey Clapperidge held, and, he started coming to games with his family and watching me play, and he really liked, me as a player, and then I got to meet him, and he said he loved me as a person too. So he ended up taking a shot on me, and he called his old coach up, Coach Rob Childress, who was the pitching coach for Nebraska, and I had a conversation with him, and he really liked me. And then next thing you know, I'm talking to Coach Rob, or sorry, Coach Harvell and Coach Sirianni and then Coach Bolt, all the Nebraska coaches, and I had 4 calls in the span of, like, 5 days, and I had never, like, had that many, it's usually one coach from a school, so I'm like, "Wow, they're really interested," and, at the time, this is a way bigger school than anybody I'd talked to, and they ended up inviting me to a prospect camp, and I went down there, and I ended up hitting, I think, there was some BP rounds, and I hit 10 of, like, 20 balls out of the park, 2 balls, like, completely out of the stadium, and, they pull me aside and they're like, "Dude, we've never seen a round like this in all the years of putting this on," and, right there on the spot, they offer me a full ride, and they you know, they sit my mom brought me down to Nebraska, and they sat us down, and Coach Harville, the recruiting coordinator, was sat us down, and he was talking for, like, an hour, just, like, trying to sell it to me, and the whole time, I'm just like, "Just tell me what you're giving me, I'm coming," you know? Like, you didn't have to sell me on anything, I was coming this whole time, so, yeah, it was, kind of a miracle at the end, I got to meet Casey and his family, and so cool that, he saw what he did in me and decided to reach out to his coaches because he said he hadn't done that in, since he had played 20 years back, so, super special for me and my family, and to finally see that all the hard work had paid off, through those, because like we talked about my injuries and stuff, I didn't know forever, and there was a lot of uncertainty about playing at the next level. So for it to all finally pay off and come full circle was super special for, my family and I.
Yeah. So there was never they never came out to see you prior to that. It was just some phone calls, get you down to a camp. You
It
kind of
was,
light it
was
up, and
yep.
then that was it.
Yeah, pretty much. I had some phone calls. I sent them some highlight tapes and everything they had watched. They wanted a lot of game film at the time, so they watched all that stuff, and they ended up inviting me down to the camp, and yeah, just went off at this camp, and they decided that I was you know, what they thought I was, and offered me a full ride right there, and, um, yeah, it was I'm super blessed to be going to Nebraska and have this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like Casey must have done a heck of a job, selling your abilities and who you are as a person to them.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can't say enough about Casey and his family. They mean everything. We still talk all the time today. Um, yeah, just an amazing guy, amazing family, and, I'm forever grateful for what he did for me.
well, and I mean, there's probably a lot of guys you can talk to that a post 22 baseball connection probably made a big impact in their life because, it's such a long and storied program that people have been playing for 50, 60, 70 years. It's a family, and just I think that's so cool that somebody who played that long ago was able to help you and get you to where, kind of a dream come true scenario. Let's real quickly talk. We've kind of touched on the training, and the time that you were hurt may have been the most impactful as far as you couldn't do anything else, so you locked in on getting stronger. And specifically with training, what do you think has been the most important for you, not just in the time you were injured, but since you started with us? You said it, to where you didn't feel like maybe you were the most blessed athletically, but that you've earned it. What are kind of the things that you've seen and kind of some aha moments that you've had in your training, over the last 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, so like I said, when I started with you, all the guys would make fun of me because the bar hurt my back and I could barely squat anything. So 8th grade, we finished that year, and I'm asking the coaches in the exit interview, like, what can I do so I can, play for the Hard Hats next year? Like I need to know what I can get better on. They're like, you just need to get stronger, because at the time I'm like 120 pounds soaking wet. And so the goal was to squat 300 pounds by the next summer, and I came back and I was squatting 315, and the year before, like when I was in 8th grade, I was, hardly squatting probably 135 or so. So, yeah, I worked through that, and that was kind of like the first like aha moment, and I really started to love the gym through that. Obviously, it's easy when you got Hunter showing up every morning at 5 a.m.,
Yeah.
yelling at you. He brings the life to the gym. Such a great guy, and I'm forever thankful for everything he's done for me. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of the first aha moment for me, and then from there, it's kind of addictive, once you start seeing your lifts kinda go up and you start seeing, uh, the changes it makes in your game, like, just the little things, like, I'm able to hit a ball farther, just naturally becoming quicker, faster, it's the little things like that, and they make you a better athlete, and, I don't think you even really notice it, like, you don't see it until you get to the next season, and then all of a sudden you're doing these things that you've never done before, and it's amazing. And it goes back to all the work you spend in the off season in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. So this last year, I kind of, had pointed out to you that I thought there were some things that you needed to work on to kind of bring it all together. Like you're crazy strong in the gym, and but over the years we'd known that, speed wasn't probably where it needed to be. And, we kind of started down that pathway of speed, and I very quickly realized it wasn't a speed deficiency, it was a movement deficiency with what hockey had done to your body, and
Mhm.
just being really, really tight in the hips. And so I gave you, some pretty intensive mobility work and wanted you doing it a couple times a day. You know, athletes hate that stuff. It's not fun. It's not moving 700 pounds on a deadlift, or, squatting a bunch of weight. Talk to me about the approach with that, because, and I was the same way as an athlete. I didn't want to do the things I wasn't good at. I wanted to do the things I was already good at. And I think that, a lot of high level athletes are like that. But, number one, how, as a senior, being told you're not very good at this, you need to do this better. How do you mentally accept that and then make that part of your routine?
Yeah, like you said, everybody likes to do the big Olympics and everything, but it's the more the mobility stuff that gets missed out on a little bit. And I've always been tight through my life and told I need to stretch more and everything. And to incorporate some of the exercises you gave me, they've been huge, because obviously if you and Hunter tell me something, I'm gonna do it because I've seen the results. It's not like an ego thing for me of, I would want to be told that, and I've seen the, effects of how it's played into my running ability. Because I think when I was younger, like, before that injury as a freshman, sophomore, I was running like a 7.360 time, That's not gonna get you anywhere, and then
No.
when I was going to those camps and stuff, I'm down to, a 6.860 time, so I'm not flying, and I still gotta work on some speed and everything, but a 6.8 plays, so then at least I made something that was unrecruitable into something that plays at the next level, so, yeah, doing those little exercises, the mobility, especially because that's what, keeps you healthy throughout the season too, you don't wanna be all tight and, muscly either, so.
Well, and it most likely played into that avulsion fracture, with the hips being that tight. So I
Mhm.
think, not only did you get faster, it's going to, long-term injury prevention. I think it's going to put you in a better place. So, moving on, you're leaving here this week, right?
Yeah, I think I take off on Sunday, so my last game will be Wednesday.
So against Post 320,
Yep,
your
tomorrow.
cross parking lot rival. So that's probably going to mean something to you playing in that game.
Yeah.
How do you approach that to not make it too emotional and just to go out and do your job?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, take it the same way. I know I got some interview stuff to do before the game and everything, but besides that, I'm gonna take it the same as I do every single game. And more than anything, I'm just gonna try to enjoy it because, I only get that game one time. So I'm gonna just, probably get out there in that first inning, look around a little bit, take it all in, but then, lock in on the game and just have a good time. And hopefully we beat up on them pretty good. And I get to go down to Kansas on a good note. And then, yep, obviously come back for that state tournament, which I'm super excited for. And it's in Rapid this year at Fitzgerald Stadium. So that's going to be really special to be back for that.
Yeah, that'll be a great homecoming for you. Um, Moving on to Nebraska, next fall. Um, how do you take all these things that we've talked about and use it to separate at that next level? What do you think? How does Wyatt Reeder become a big time Division I player?
Yeah, I think just continue to work as hard as I can, and I think the strength training we've done in the gym is going to be huge for me because I haven't actually like worked out with their strength coach and stuff, but when we were going over talking and everything, um basically he's talking about all the things we already do at Benson Sports Training. So the good thing is when I get there to Nebraska, I'm not going to be behind the gun, I'll just kind of just continue to do what I'm doing. I'm sure they do things a little bit differently, but for the most part, it'll be the same because he said some guys come in, he's got to teach them from scratch how to lift and do all this stuff, So I have good knowledge of that because of you and Hunter. And yeah, as far as baseball, just continue to work on my arm motion, and get faster and, yeah, just continue to improve on my strengths and, take away the weaknesses is the biggest thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And somehow you gotta bottle up some of Hunter's energy and take that with you.
Yeah, for sure. Always wanna be that guy in the weight room. I don't think I'll quite have his energy ever, though.
I don't
He's
know
one
if
of a
anybody
kind.
does.
One of a kind.
What, so a lot of young baseball players in Rapid City, what advice would you give to a young kid looking to be where Wyatt Reeder is right now?
Yeah, I'd say, um, I never did a bunch of those prospect camps and everything, and I don't think you need to, you know, there's a lot of shift onto travel ball now and everything, and, I just really don't see it, you know, because all these kids are going to these prospect camps and everything before they're actually ready to be recruited, you know, their numbers aren't there and everything, so spend that money on, you know, getting into the gym or, you know, really spend time in the cages and develop on your skills before you take it to, you know, looking at that getting recruited college level because eventually, if you spend enough time on that, you know, you're going to be good enough where schools are coming to watch you. And, yeah, so just worry about more about that stuff and then don't get too wrapped up in the results and everything, especially when you're younger, you know, just have fun with your guys playing the game because at the end of the day, it's still a game, you know, and you got to enjoy doing it. And, yeah, don't take it too seriously, but, yeah, if you do all those things, I think you'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, and you made a great point there about a 14 or 15-year-old going to a showcase and running at 8 seconds 60. Why are you wanting to put that product out there? All you're doing is getting crossed off of lists, and you're paying
Exactly.
money to do that.
And you're paying
So develop your
$200. Yeah.
product first. Yeah, yeah, develop your product and then put it out there because I mean, honestly, baseball has become a very metrics driven game, and
Mhm.
they want to see that exit velocity, they want to see the speed, they want to see the ability to throw hard. And if you can't do that, then why would you go put it on display?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Well,
make any sense. And
and for me, I'm speaking from experience because I was that guy. You know, when I was a freshman, I didn't hit the ball super hard. I didn't throw the ball super hard. I ran a 7.360 time, you know? So none of my metrics were crazy. So why go to these camps and basically get your name crossed off a list and pay, you know, $200, $300 for all these camps when, you know, instead just continue to work on yourself, you know, become that better athlete, the best version that you can be. And when the time comes, you know, then you can go to those prospect camps and everything. As far as, you know, when you're 13, 14, even 15, there's not a whole lot of reason to be doing those kind of camps and everything because you can't even talk to schools until you're a junior.
right,
Yeah, I'd spend those early years, you know, just um, really learning how to play the game of baseball. And like I said, metrics are a part of baseball, but they're not the whole game, you know. So don't get too wrapped up in those things because at the end of the day, they get, you know, there's some guys they call showcase ponies too that all they can do is, you know, hit the ball hard, they throw it hard. But when it gets into the game, it just all disappears, you know, and that's not who a college coach is looking for. And if you spend
right.
all that time, you know, instead of playing baseball and playing in games and getting better at actually playing baseball, um, instead you're just training and, you know, not translating your game to you know, to the game, then it's not gonna matter when it does, you know, because they can't recruit a kid that can't hit in a baseball game.
Right. Okay, so last question, and we've talked a lot about this, so it's probably going to be more of a summary than an answer. In your life, your short life, since you're 18 years old, um, what has sports, not specifically baseball, but what has sports in general taught you about life?
Let's say, you know, just a work ethic. You gotta work hard for everything you get, and also not everything's gonna be fair, you know, either, you know, because some kids are gonna work harder than others and, maybe not get seen right away. You know, there's always that injury aspect too, which is uncontrollable. You know, you never know what's going to happen in life. And just like in sports, everything can be taken away from you. So you got to be grateful for everything that comes your way and everything you get, you know? So just take it one day at a time and be grateful that you're blessed to be able to play the game.
Yeah. Okay, I lied. One more question. Do you Did you learn more from winning a national championship or a season-ending injury?
Season-ending injury, 100%. You know, this national championship is awesome, and that's, what everybody's working for, and it's amazing, but that's a result, that's you're not learning from that. You're learning from those hard times, and because of those hard times, that makes when you do reach those, national championship, winning a state championship, those accolades, it makes it so much sweeter when you've gone through something so hard, So you got to yeah, take it one day at a time and things will work out.
Yeah. Well, that's great insight from a 18-year-old, and you better again thank your parents for being awesome parents, and I think you guys have a wonderful family, and just do everything the right way, and very very happy for your success, and just the fact that you've had to work for it and it didn't just get put in front of you. You had to go out and get it, and so I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know you got a big game tomorrow to get ready for, and so I wish you the best of luck. I wish you the best of luck this summer season in the Jayhawk League, and can't wait to see you when you get back for the state tournaments. Sincerely, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me today, and thanks for everything you've done for me throughout my career. You've been amazing.
All right. Tell mom and dad I said hi.
I will. Thanks, Scott.